Okay, so I have created a class for the exceptions demo, and firstly we will see what are the unchecked exceptions that we have in the java.lang package. And here you can see these are some kind of unchecked exceptions. And what is unchecked exceptions? Those are not known to the compiler at the compile time. Okay, that will be only known during the runtime. Okay, that's why these all classes, right? It will extend the runtime exception. Okay, it will inherit the runtime exception, and it is mostly caused by the all these exceptions are mostly caused by the programmer when they are writing the code. Okay, so we can catch this one, otherwise it will terminate the whole program. So we have to catch those exceptions and the program should keep on moving, right? So here you can see the arithmetic class, sorry, the arithmetic exception class is extending the runtime exception. Okay, and when you come to the null pointer, you can see it extends the runtime exception. And here the array index out of bound will extend the index out of bound exception, and that will inherit the runtime exception, and runtime exceptions inherits the exception class. Okay, so and this exception class will inherit the throwable class finally. So this is the exception, and previously we saw the class error class. Okay, so there's errors or serious problems, and it is hard to catch that those things, but these are some problems that are created by the programmer, and we have to catch this one so that the program will keep on moving and it will not stop abruptly. Okay, and let me close these things, and we will see some examples with this unchecked exception classes. Okay, so first let me check the null pointer exceptions. I think you guys might have seen this kind of exceptions a lot. So let me put something like exception example. Okay, and let me create a string here. String name equal to null. Okay, and if you try to catch some kind of sorry, access some kind of string methods, right? Say for example trim or something. Since the value is null, now you will be getting the null pointer exception. Okay, and let us create another method similar way. Void next method. Okay, and let me print the same line here, and now let me call these two methods here. Okay, so I have created a method called next method, and this is will not execute if you are not putting this inside the try catch block. Okay, because once this exception occurs in this line, right, it will totally stop the program. But if you put it inside a try catch block, then the exceptions will be caught, and the next methods that are available inside the main method will get executed. Okay, so if you want to run the program without stopping when the exceptions has occurred, then you have to put it inside a try catch block. Okay, so let me run this program as well. Next method here in the main method, and we will run this Java file, and you can see it will catch the null pointer exception. Sorry, it will null pointer exception will happen, but it will not get caught because we haven't put it inside the try catch block, right? So here you can see the null pointer exception has occurred. Okay, and we will put this inside a try block now. Okay, and let me put this three statements inside the try block, and we have to catch this, right? So here you have to use the classes that are relevant to that error type, sorry, exception type. Okay, so these are exceptions. Previously we saw these things are error classes, comes under error classes, and this comes under the exception classes, but both are inheriting the throwable class. Okay, so that's what the flowchart we have seen in the first video. And now this is a null pointer exception, so you can directly give the null pointer exception here and create an object. Okay, and let us print here value should not be null. Okay, and we have caught this exception now, and you can see the next method will run even the exception is thrown, and the program will not stop after the exception is thrown. Okay, so here you can see the value should not be null, so it comes from the catch block, and the next method is also executed now. All right, so you can see this null pointer exception we have got here, right? So you can directly put the exception as well. So if you are not sure about the exceptions that is going to happen, then you can directly put the exception class, because that will handle what kind of exceptions are happening, any kind of exceptions. Okay, see here, it is now catching this, and it is printing this value. Okay, so now we have seen about the null pointer exception, and let's see what is an arithmetic exception. Okay, so let me remove this two lines here, and I'll put I equal to 2 or something. Okay, and I will initialize the j value as 0, and we will calculate the k. So we will divide I by j. Okay, so that will be infinity when we calculate mathematically, but in this one it will throw the arithmetic exception. Okay, so in this line it's going to throw, and you can see this exception class we are using, right? So it will get caught because this arithmetic exception also comes under this exception, right? So it will not throw any error. It will execute the statement that is available inside this one. So if I enter this arithmetic exception here, then also it's going to work properly. Okay, and even if you can put the runtime exceptions, because this arithmetic is extending the runtime, right? So here you can see the runtime exception, so that also you can use it here to catch this exception, and you can see the program will not stop. Okay, even the exception has occurred. Okay, because we are trying to divide it by 0. Okay, so that in programmatically it will create an exception that will be an arithmetic exception. Okay, and if you are not trying to catch this one, you can see the error. Okay, let us put something like null pointer exception here. Since it is not related to null pointer, it is going to throw an exception, and in the console you can see it gives the java.lang.arithmetic exception by 0. Can you see here? So this is what the exception it will throw. So these are kind of unchecked exception that happens at the runtime. Okay, because doesn't show you before running. Can you see here? It will not ask you to catch those exception even if you are not putting this try catch. Okay, if you even if you remove this try catch, right, it is not going to tell you that this will create an exception or something. Okay, so I'm commenting out all these things, and here you can see it will not tell anything, right? So that is called as an unchecked exception. Okay, so if you run this one only during the runtime, it will come to know, and it will throw the exception. Okay, but when it is a checked exception, right, it will ask you to throw the exception. It will find out the methods that are having the checked exceptions, and it will ask you to put that catch those exceptions during the compile time itself. Okay, and yeah, so next one we will see is what is an array index bound of exception. So let me uncomment this one, and for array index, right, just create an array. We'll create with an integer type. Okay, int value, new int, and I'll put value as 3. Okay, okay, and we'll assign some 3 values to it. Of 0 should be 10, and of 1 should be 20, 2 should be 30. Okay, so I have created an array and I am assigning 3 values to it. Now what we have to do, let's iterate it using the for loop, and here when you give this I is less than, okay, equal to 3. Okay, so at this time it is going to go and check for the third index, but the third index is not available here, right? We have 0, 1 and 2. Since there is no third index here, it will show this, throw this index out of bound exception. Okay, so let's see that one also, and just I will print this value. Array value is, so how to print this one? Just we have to pass this object and pass the index here. Okay, so let me run this one, and it is going to throw the exception now because we are catching it using the arithmetic exception that is not allowed, right? So here you can see array index out of bound exception is thrown since there is no third index, right? If you remove this equal to, then nothing is going to happen. Then it will check only for this 2, 0, 1 and 2 index, right? Yeah, so here you can see it is not having any kind of issues. The next line is also executed now, so exception is not thrown now. But if you put as equal to, then it will come and check for the third index that is not available, so it is throwing that exception. And why it is throwing that exception? Because we are using this arithmetic exception in the catch block. Okay, so that is not relevant to this kind of exception, right? So just pass this array index out of bound exception here. Okay, and if you run this one, you can see it will execute the block that is available inside the catch block. Okay, so value should not be null. Okay, so you can put something like array index exits. Okay, and now the proper error will be thrown. Just for a demo purpose, you are giving this print lines. You can use any kind of methods that are available in this object as well. Okay, so if you type if you see the objects methods that are available, right, you can get anything from here. Okay, so for example, you can get the print stack trace or get message, any methods you can use to print it. Okay, so if you want to get the stack trace, right, just use this method, and if you print this one, then it will throw you the error that is available. Okay, see, even it is printing, right, since you are using this print stack trace method, it is giving the error that is being thrown. Okay, when you uncomment this one, then it will not throw any kind of error, and it shows only the print statement that we have given inside, and the next method is executed after exception. Okay, but if I uncomment this one, as I said, it displays the error, but you can see the next method is executed. Okay, so the next method is executed, but we are printing that trace as well. Okay, so that is the difference, and you have many methods here available, and you can use anything when you want to print some message or something, that also you can do it. Okay, so this is what all about exceptions that are unchecked exceptions. Okay, so that is done only during the runtime, and it will not throw any kind of errors. Okay, and index out of bound is nothing but this is an array, right? So if you create some list or something, okay, and if you are doing the same kind of operation, say for example, I will just remove this one, and I will create an array list here, okay, of string type, and let me create an object, and I will pass some values into that one. Okay, so we'll pass an value using the array list class, something like Chennai, Mumbai, and Hyderabad. Okay, so we have three values, and now also okay, what happened? And here we'll use the list dot size. Okay, so to get the index method, and since here also we are using the equal to, right, then it's going to throw an error exception. Okay, and we'll use the list dot get method and pass the index here. Okay, so let me run this program now, and here you can see it will not catch this, the catch block will not get executed now. Okay, here you can see it throws the index out of bound exception, because the size is only 2. Okay, it has only 0, 1 and 2, but since we have given equal to, it's going and checking for the third index value that is not available. Okay, that's why it is throwing the index out of bound exception, and it is not going to the catch block also. You can see that statement is not printed, right, and the next method is also not executed. Why? Because this index out of bound, right, if I open this declaration, you can see it extends the runtime exception. Okay, so this arrays out of bound exception, right, that is the child class of this index out of bound exception. So always you should not use the child class. Okay, you should use the parent class only. So this is the child class of this one, right, so you should not use array index out of bound exception, since it will not come to know this error exception type. So you have to use the index out of bound exception here, and now if you run, you can see the catch block will get executed, and the next method will also continue. Okay, so here you can see, so these are some examples for the unchecked type exceptions, and definitely we need to handle this kind of exceptions in our program, so that the programs will not stop and get terminated when this kind of exceptions are thrown. Okay, so we have to catch those things, and always use this try catch block for a recommended way of coding. Okay, and now we'll see what are checked exceptions. Okay, so now let's see what are checked exceptions. Okay, so far we have seen what are the unchecked exceptions, and that were inheriting the runtime exception class, right? But here, these are some checked exceptions, and this is not going to extend or inherit the runtime exception, because these are done during the compile time itself, and the compiler will come to know that these exceptions can occur. Okay, and it will ask you to catch these kind of exceptions during the compile time itself. Okay, and that's why it is called as an checked exception. Okay, so if you open this declaration, you can see it extends the exception class directly. Okay, and that will extend the throwable class, and even if you come here to the file not found exception, is going to extend the input output exception, and that will extend the exception class, and it's going to extend the throwable class. Okay, and these are some kind of checked exceptions, and let's see a demo with this input output exception and file not found exception, and let's come then we will come to know the difference between the checked and unchecked. Okay, and let me create a method here, public static void some checked example. Okay, so I have created a method here, and we have a text here in the source folder, and that has some values. Okay, so what we'll do now, we'll try to access this file using the file reader class, and we'll try to print all these values in the console. Okay, and how to access this text file? We can use the file reader class, and let me create an object for this one. Okay, and we'll pass this path inside this. Let me take it the complete path from this one, and I will hardcode it directly, the double quotes. Okay, and we have already imported this from the java.io file reader, you can see, and this one is throwing an exception now. So why it is throwing? Okay, if you go to this file reader class, right, you can see in the constructor it already throws the file not found exception. So that's why these are called as an checked exception. Okay, all this IO exception, file not found exception, malformed URL exceptions, so this will be known to the compiler. Okay, so because if in case if this file is not available in that path, okay, it's going to throw an exception, right? So that is already caught in this class, and now the compiler knows that you have to throw the declaration, or you have to surround it with try catch. Okay, even if you didn't put the try catch, it will insist you to put the try catch or throw declaration to suppress this error, and then only you can proceed with the execution of the program. Okay, and this is called as unchecked exception. All right, so if you come to this unchecked exception, right, see here, if I remove this try block, okay, and this catch blocks. Okay, so I have removed it, and you can see there are no errors, right? Because the compiler will not know now that this is going to throw an error, because it happens in the runtime. Okay, only during the runtime it comes to know that it exits the index out of bound and it is throwing an error. So this is called as an unchecked exception, and you have to explicitly put the try catch block to catch this kind of exceptions. Okay, otherwise it will not be known to the compiler, and during the runtime only it will happen. Okay, so here definitely you have to go for the try catch block when you're writing the program itself. You should know that this kind of exceptions can occur in this code, and you have to write the catch blocks accordingly. Okay, but here you can see we didn't have the try catch here, but it is insisting you to put the try catch. Okay, so let's put surround it with try catch now. See, it creates the catch block with the file not found exception itself, directly it gives here. Okay, so you can either print this track case, or you can put some message here like file not found in the path. Okay, all right, so we have now passed the path of that file, so we will create an integer, and let me put it let me read that one using the file method. Okay, sorry. Hmm, integer I equal to file dot read. Okay, and that is not equal to -1, and inside this let me print that value one by one. Okay, so let me print that each index, and here you can see it is asking you to throw the IO exception. Okay, so if you go to this read method, right, you can see it throws the IO exception. So the compiler comes to know that some input output exceptions can occur in this method. Okay, so it will ask you to throw that exceptions. Without that, it will not suppress this error. Okay, so you have to either throw the declaration. So we will see what is throws. Okay, for now we will try to surround it with try catch. Okay, so already we have this code inside the try block, and there is one catch here already. So we will put another catch for the IO exception. So IO exception, I'm just putting it here, and yeah, you have to import from the java.io. Okay, and we'll put something like um, input output operation exception. Okay, Okay, so this is called as a checked exception. See here, without the try catch itself, it is able to identify it, right? That this will throw an exception. So the compiler comes to know, right? And we'll create the method here, the same next method. Okay, and let me execute this two methods from this main method now. And after that, I will execute this next method as well. Okay, so if I run this program, you can see it will access this file in the say path that we have given, and using this while it is going to print each index one by one. Okay, okay, so let us print it in the same line, and yeah, I'll put a next line here. So if I run this one, you can see it gets the value from the read.text. Okay, so what are the values available here, it is printing, and the next method is also executed. Okay, so this now there is no exception, right? It is not having any kind of exceptions here. So let me change this file path. Okay, so let me put something like the file name. I will change it, and now if I run this one, it should go to this catch block. Okay, so this exception is related to file not found exception, so it should come only to this path. So sorry, this catch block, not this one. And after printing this one, it should go and print the next method as well. Okay, so now the exception will happen, and here you can see file not found in the path that has been printed. Okay, whatever the code that is available inside the catch block of the file not found exception, and the next method is executed after the exception. Okay, so this is happening now, and let me remove this one, and we'll give the proper file name. Okay, and for the input and output, right? So what we'll do, we will close this one. Okay, so file dot close. So we'll close the object, and here you can see it will try to access read that. Now this has been closed, right? So you will get the input output exception now, and this line will be executed. So if I run this one, you can see first it will go to this catch block and it will check. Okay, so this error is exception is related to IO exception, so it will not come to this catch block, and it will go to the proper catch block, and it is printing the input output operation exception, and then the next method is executed after the exception. Okay, so this is something called as an checked exception, and here you can see in the same method we are able to catch two kind of exceptions. One is file not found exception, the other one is IO exceptions. Okay, and this is the one concept that we said we will be discussing and covering in the topic, that is try with multiple catches. Okay, so if you are not sure about this kind of exceptions, right, you can directly put the exception class itself. Okay, so this is the parent class of all this kind of exceptions, right? So even if now the IO exception happens, it will come and check your file not found exception, and the catch does not have any input output exceptions, right? So this parent class will identify, and it will print this statement now. Okay, so if you are not known about what kind of exception it is, okay, so then you can directly generically give the exception class itself. Okay, see here, it comes and prints the properly. Okay, so that's how it is, and but you should not put this one before this catch block. Okay, so here if you are trying to put it right, then definitely it will throw an error. Okay, since it is the parent class, right, you have to always put this parent class uh, a catch at the last. Okay, so you should not put it before that one, then it will throw an error. So now if you put it, you can see it will not throw any error, and the catch will also happen properly. All right, so this is called as a try with multiple sorry, what is it, try with multiple catch. Okay, and here if I remove this one, can see this file close, right? So this method also as the input output exception here. Okay, and that's why it is throwing an error in this line, and this read line also you should know that it is having the input output exception, and once we put this exception class, both the errors has been gone, because this IO exception was extending the exception class. Okay, so that's why the error has been removed. Okay, so you can use the parent class or the proper exception class also, and that's all about the checked exception. And we have also seen the try with multiple catch, right? And now let's see what is called as an throw or throws declaration. Okay,